Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoy here for the SoonerScoop.com studios. A day before travel, we hope, to go down to Auburn. Oklahoma headed into its first road game of the season, coming off of just a strange night at the Palace on Saturday, the 25-15 loss.
I don't think it
was
strange.
Well, it wasn't
just,
strange. It was great. But with everything that went into the quarterback discussion, obviously, we talked about that on Tuesday in the practice report. Got the availability report out on Wednesday night going into the Auburn game. We'll get to that in a second. A good time to be part of SoonerScoop.com. George, you wrote about it last night just in terms of the availability report. Got a really cool feature coming out this week on Michael Hawkins, which I'm excited about reading because I think there is largely a bunch of unknown in terms of what's going to happen here.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why it's a great time to sign up. What's the promo? OU1.
OU1. That's all you got to do for you there out in YouTube world. $1 for 2 months. Promo code OU1 if you're looking to get a bunch of content. Obviously, we're going to be down in Auburn. Softball's starting up. Fall softball. Bob's going to be over at Love's
Basketball
Field.
soon.
Basketball's underway. We haven't talked to Porter. I think that we maybe will do that next week.
I think Jenny Baranczyk maybe too.
Jenny Baranczyk as well next week?
I think.
Ton of new faces over in the men's side of the Lloyd Noble Center. The women's side, they're getting some preseason love, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. They got a chance to be pretty good.
Notice how we're talking about other sports other than football. Good time to sign up for SoonerScoop.com, though. Fall Baseball World Series coming up in October. $1, 2 months, promo code OU1. All right, let's get into the availability report that comes out on Wednesday. Not a whole lot of surprise, right? I know that we posted on SoonerScoop.com on the Crimson Corner just in terms of Tyler Keltner. That was one of the names that was added. He's going to be out this week, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. Obviously, in terms of he should be back next week. It sounds like he has a situation with the appendix, but we move on. Obviously, Zach Schmidt's going to have to replace him. Anything else stick out to you? Obviously, Jake Taylor listed as probable. Taylor Tatum and Andrell Anthony listed as doubtful. Dasan McCullough, questionable, which maybe we see Dasan for the first time this week. Kendall Dolby obviously out. He kind of leads the way with a bunch of guys that are out this week, but there are obviously a bunch of guys that were known, correct?
Yeah, and even Deion Burks, he was listed as questionable as well. We'll see. I bet he's somewhat of a game time decision. I don't really know what the injury is. I just know it's a soft tissue injury. That's what Brent told us after the game on Saturday. So we'll see. That's obviously a huge one because you look at that wide receiver room, and we'll get into it a little bit later. They need some guys to step up. But boy, you lose Deion Burks, you're down probably your top 5 wide receivers this Saturday in Auburn. So brutal break. We'll see what the long-term status is of a guy like Andrell Anthony and Nick Anderson. I asked Brent about both those guys on the Wednesday teleconference, and he basically said, well, you have to check the availability report. I mean, the availability report doesn't give you a ton of hope moving forward right now. So we'll see. The good news is Jake Taylor, maybe you get him back. Obviously, you could use the depth on the offensive line. The other good news, Troy Everett wasn't on the availability report.
Or was Branson Hickman?
Neither one was on there, which means both are good to go. I think we're going to see both of them on Saturday. I don't know exactly where, but I do think both will play in the game. And then Dasan McCullough, from what I understand, is really progressing well. Maybe we see him. We'll talk about the cheetah position later in the show and kind of the guys that have to step up for Kendall Dolby, but I think Dasan McCullough could really help him, and maybe we see him for the first time this Saturday.
What a long and winding road that would be if Dasan McCullough ends up playing a little bit of cheetah where he was brought in or where a lot of people thought he was going to play. Moved inside, obviously, during the spring and hasn't gotten his 2024 season underway yet.
Yeah, I know. It would be really interesting. Last week they played Trace Ford at some cheetah. We'll see if that continues this week. I don't think it will, but I also don't know what front Oklahoma's going to come out in. Obviously, last week we saw the 3-man front with the 3 safeties deep. We'll see. I think they'll be very multiple against Auburn, but I'm sure they have some packages lined up for Dasan McCullough to get him on the football field.
Hey, Michael Hawkins, you're making your first start of your career on Saturday. You might be down your first 5 wide receivers.
Not good.
Going into August. It's obviously they're going to have their work cut out for them offensively. Let's stay here, though. We heard from some of the players talking about the first road trip coming up this week into Auburn. And, George, it's really not a thing that Oklahoma's done under Brent Venables is play well on the road.
No, they've been not very good at all under Brent Venables, and some of that's from his first year. But then you even look last year,
two regular season losses.
Yeah, losing at Kansas and at Oklahoma State. So going on the road at a place like Auburn, who we've heard about, is just a crazy atmosphere.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to witness it. I will say though, Auburn's already lost 2 home games this year, so I understand that it's a road game and there's all this that plays into it, but I do think Oklahoma can go in there and play well. I think they have to get the crowd out of it early. Obviously, this is a very frustrated Auburn crowd. That doesn't mean they're not going to show up. I think they're definitely going to show up on Saturday. But if you can build a little bit of a lead, get some momentum, maybe you take the crowd out of it.
Here are a number of the Oklahoma players talking about the first road trip of the season.
Auburn's a great offense. They have a great quarterback, great running backs. A young receiver, number 8, Coleman, is a great guy. And the other receivers as well, they're a great team. And we're ready to play them like they're the best team in the country.
They just, they got a lot of good guys around. They got a quarterback controversy going on, great running backs. They got a good freshman receiver, a good receiver transfer from Penn State and Lambert. And then they got good tight ends that they use very well. So we'll need to hone in on the run game and things of that nature.
They're a really good team, really, really good team. Their running back's really good. Got a couple receivers. They got problems just like we got problems. But that'll be really fun to go there. First road game, first road test. It'll be juiced up just like it was here Saturday night, man. I'm excited, to be honest with you. I love Road Dog. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, I can't wait. It's our first road game. Me, I'm more of a road game guy. I love home games, but the road games, going to a different person's stadium and just making it your own is amazing.
Can that work also as a positive just for this team right now to get out on the road, be out kind of on your own, if you will?
Oh man, we're ready for whatever. Home games are good, but going to an away game, you have to be able to play on the road, and you're not at the comfort at your own house. You don't get to have your locker rooms and everything, so you have to be able to lock in any situation.
To some extent, but I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah.
I like both, but I definitely like going to somebody else's house and taking over as well. But I do like to protect mine. As far as the team goes, man, I feel like we just got to keep bonding and keep pushing together. I don't feel like we're that far, to be honest with you. I feel like we're really, really close.
It's interesting, the psyche of this team going on the road for the first time. Obviously, the season's not over. It just started. You're coming off the first loss of the season. You got a quarterback situation. How that's affecting the locker room, I don't know. It's going to be interesting as they look to bounce back this week.
I think it's if you want, let's look glass half full.
Okay,
real
let's
quick,
be positive.
okay?
We've been negative quite a bit. Let's be positive.
Think back to that 2015 season. They go and they lose to Texas in a game that they definitely shouldn't have lost. The offense looked terrible in that game. They get the flight delay on their way to Manhattan, Kansas.
There might be some flight delays to Atlanta / Auburn.
Maybe playing in a hurricane. Maybe the team rallies around that, and they go win 55-0 at Auburn. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, glass half full. But I do think that there's something to be said. Okay, come together as a team this week. Fix some of the issues on offense, whatever can be fixed. I think a lot of it maybe can't be fixed, but whatever can be, maybe you feel a little bit better about the quarterback change and the guys rallying around him and going on the road. And it's Oklahoma versus the world, right? Like, I do think there is something to be said about that type of mindset. And so we'll see. I think that it's really important, though, for Oklahoma to get some confidence in this game. Come out with a win any way you can, right?
Sure.
Like whether that's having to force 5 turnovers against Auburn, which you might be able to do because that's what Auburn does, is turn the ball over. But finding a way to win on the road, get to the bye week at 4-1, and feel good about yourselves going into maybe the biggest game of the year, playing Texas down in Dallas.
No doubt about it. Oklahoma looking to bounce back. One of the guys that, I think Trace Ford had told us after the game on Saturday night, one of the guys that spoke up in the locker room was Kobe McKenzie. So he'll lead us off, as well as a number of players, talking about the psyche and just bouncing back in general.
In terms of overall, coming off of a loss, how did you feel like everybody responded today?
Good. I feel like we're exactly where we need to be. We had a good team meeting today, senior council. Coach V talked about the pride comes before the fall. That was a good message to everybody. I think we're, nobody wanted to lose, but we're exactly where we need to be as a team.
I think Trace said after the game that you were one of the guys that got up and spoke. What, in that moment, what can you say? I know the disappointment was grand.
Exactly. Everybody in Oklahoma, predominantly knows that the Sooners wanted to win. Everybody wanted the Sooners to win. That didn't happen. No reason to sit around mope and and feel sorry for yourselves. You know, we had our chance to win that game. We did everything we could to win that game. It didn't happen. Simple. It didn't happen. No need to mope and whine about it, honestly.
I mean, you never want to lose a game, but it's time to put it in the past. I mean, we got a good team we're playing this week, so we're just looking forward to getting out there Saturday and playing again.
I mean, I don't think anything like that, like anything's gonna change. We're gonna like put our head down, just keep working. Just keep the main thing. That's just getting the W. And yeah, I mean, I don't think nothing much gonna change. Just keep practicing. I mean, just keep the main thing really.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You come in really on a Sunday, you put that Tennessee game away, and here on a Monday you click that reset button. Coaches, players, staff, everybody understand that we can't change the past. We can't go back. I mean, we did what we can. We got to move on to Auburn because that's the next one.
Yeah, just continue to show up to work every day. I mean, obviously we're not clicking at the moment, and just got to keep doing more. We're doing more. We're meeting more together outside of the allotted times and stuff. We're trying to really up our level. So I mean, it's really just about showing up every day, ready to work and competing to the best of our ability.
I mean, I just feel like everyone's got to be on the same page and get the call, communicate with everybody, and just play fast, man. That's just how I feel.
We'll hear a little bit more from Jaquez Petaway, who broke out somewhat at the end of the game on Saturday night against Tennessee. Maybe him and Michael Hawkins have a little bit of a better chemistry than we've seen from any wide receiver quarterback combo throughout the season so far. So I don't know. To say that we know anything about what's going to happen offensively on Saturday it'd be a lie.
Yeah. I have no idea what it's going to look like. Are they going to change up schematically what they're doing?
Walking out of Brent Venables' press conference on Tuesday, you kind of thought, oh, they're going to change some things. They have to change some things.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously there's a lot of frustration inside the building, and so does that lead to making wholesale changes? I don't think so. Like, it's hard to just completely change your offense, but I do think that you can get back to the basics. Maybe do some different things. Maybe you put in some different quarterback run options, some zone read stuff. I know I talked about that earlier in the week, so I think you might see some of that. But
how aggressive are you with Hawkins' legs?
Very.
Very. And you just say, F it.
Yes.
If something, God forbid, something
we
happens.
We have reached the point where it is throw everything out the window.
Sure.
I mean, you've got to find something that works. And I get that you don't want to obviously put Hawkins in a position to get injured, but it's clear he has a different level with his legs.
Sure.
And I think that they're going to use that to the best of his ability. It puts the defense in a really tough bind, and especially game planning for it. I know Hugh Freeze kind of talked about that on the teleconference of just how difficult it is to defend a guy like Michael Hawkins. And you'll hear from Justin here in a second from Auburn Live talk about they've struggled with mobile quarterbacks so far this year. So you wonder, can Oklahoma find some explosive plays using Michael Hawkins' legs? I think that's the one thing you'll notice, maybe some difference from what they're doing offensively, is you're going to see a lot more quarterback run game.
He joined us in July for the opponent preview, and it was good to catch up with Justin Hokansen from Auburn Live yet again before we head down to Jordan Hare. I know that I've got that now. It's Jordan Hare. In terms of some of the stuff you're about to hear, how many times did we go, my God?
Yep. The whole interview.
OU Auburn looking at each other in a mirror offensively right now, and they certainly have their own fair share of problems. Here is Justin Hokansen, though, talking about everything that is going on with the Hugh Freeze program in his second year as they go into the game 2-2 against Oklahoma. We now welcome in our good friend Justin Hokansen from Auburn Live. Oklahoma headed to Jordan Hare Stadium. Had to get it right this time. Welcome back, Justin. Thanks for joining us. It's been an interesting first four games, just as much as it's been an interesting first four games for Oklahoma. It seems like just from, being from the complete outside of everything that is Auburn right now, what is the sense of this program right now under Hugh Freeze? I just take, what we see from the press conferences and things like that, and it seems like there's a lot of bickering amongst the fan base right now.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean it's been a rough couple weeks. Honestly, over 2 weeks, because even leading into the New Mexico game, I think most fans knew, okay, you're going to beat New Mexico. Their defense is not great. What do we really learn? So it temporarily paused it for a minute. So, yeah, it's kind of been a continuation of what we saw at the end of last year against New Mexico State, against Maryland. of just inconsistencies on offense. This year, it's just been a crazy amount of turnovers. They turned the ball over 5 times against Cal and 5 more times against Arkansas. And so fans are just, beyond frustrated. Peyton Thorne started the Cal game and threw 4 picks. Now, a lot of those are different reasons. You had a drop, you had a wrong route, you had his arm get hit. Like there were different reasons for why he threw picks. And then Hank Brown gets the start against New Mexico, plays well, fine. Then he gets the start against Arkansas. He throws 3 first-half picks. Again, couple that weren't terrible decisions, like if you look at what he's looking at, but, picks nonetheless. So just, I think a lot of fans just trying to figure out what the heck's going on and why can't they execute on a consistent basis. And I've told our people since the Cal game, and I've had, I have the opportunity to watch film with people that are smarter than me when it comes to college football. And yes, the quarterbacks need to play better, but there are mistakes happening all over the place.
This sounds so familiar to what Oklahoma's going through.
Yeah, so it's like there are absolutely opportunities there with this Auburn offense. I mean, you look at some of the numbers. They're top 15 in the country in yards per rush. They're second in the league. Both their running backs are averaging 7 yards a carry plus. They're 6th in the country in yards per play. They've had a lot of explosive plays downfield. Despite all their struggles throwing the football, they're leading the conference in yards per completion. Like, so that, and even watching the film, Freeze is right. There are guys open at times, and there are plays to be made. But it's just, if it's not one thing, it's in the other. It's one left tackle that doesn't block a guy, and it's a 3-yard gain instead of a 15-yard gain. It's one receiver that doesn't block the right person, and so it goes for no gain. It's one wrong route. It's one drop. And so it's just been all of those things. And so whether it's execution or coaching, whatever it is, if they can somehow fix it, like that's the question to me with Auburn's offense. It's not, are they good enough or is the scheme good enough? I think the scheme is good enough, and I think they've got enough talent. Can they flip a switch and somehow all of a sudden start limiting mistakes, or are they who they are, which is just a mistake-filled team? How do you scheme to try to limit mistakes? Can you figure out what everybody sort of does best and just do that and stop trying to do everything and some things they don't do well? Like that's the issue. I think there's opportunities there for Auburn's offense, but the question is, can they flip a switch and all of a sudden start playing clean football? I have no idea if they can get that done or not.
Justin, let's dive into the quarterback situation because it sounds like it's very similar.
Everything he said is exactly what Oklahoma's going through.
Exactly. Like it's not all the quarterback's fault. There's other factors. Execution, that's been a huge word here for Oklahoma the last few weeks. But tell us about the 2 quarterbacks. Who do you think is maybe the pick that they need to go with moving forward? And I don't know, maybe I missed it, but who is, I guess, do you think is going to start on Saturday against Oklahoma?
We don't know yet. We watched a little bit of practice on Tuesday, like 7 minutes. And what we saw in the drills that we saw, Peyton was first in the pecking order. Hank was second. Peyton Thorne was first. Hank Brown was second. So that would certainly, maybe give some indication of, maybe who might start. I don't know. My gut says he'll go back to Peyton Thorne simply because he did it at halftime against Arkansas. I mean, his gut says I need to go back to Peyton Thorne. Peyton's a more experienced player, so even though he's been inconsistent, he's played a lot of football, and he's probably better prepared to recognize the different things Oklahoma's defense is going to do. I mean, despite whatever else, Hank Brown hasn't played enough football that I would be surprised if he put Hank Brown. Now, if Hank Brown had played well against Arkansas, then you just keep him, right? He played well, and you say you played well, you deserve the chance to start. But he didn't. He threw 3 picks. And you went back to Peyton, and Peyton actually played well in the second half against Arkansas. He threw two touchdowns. His 1 pick was not his fault. It was off Cam Coleman's hands. And Freeze said he played solid. So Peyton actually played well in the second half. So my guess is that he goes with Thorne, and then we'll go from there. We'll see how we'll see how he plays. Peyton's a more athletic player. He's got good athletic ability. He can run a little bit. Hank doesn't have that. He's not a statue, but he's not really a running threat. Peyton's an actual running threat, which you probably are going to need against a defense as good as Oklahoma's. You probably need an additional dimension there of a guy that can help out in the running game like Peyton can. So my gut says Peyton, but we don't officially know who it'll be yet.
Working our way through the rest of the offensive side of the football, just in terms of Cam Coleman, I know there's been a little bit of an injury bug with him. What's his status going into the game on Saturday? And then some of the other guys that maybe Oklahoma fans should keep an eye out for on Saturday.
Yeah, Cam didn't play against New Mexico. He hurt his right shoulder in the Cal game. Didn't play against New Mexico. Played against Arkansas. Caught a pass on the first drive, and then didn't. I think he caught one other pass. He had the drop that caused the interception where he just kind of a lazy play. He didn't get his hands up. Free said earlier today he looks as good as he has in a couple weeks. So he should be good to go Saturday and should get more reps this week. So he should be in pretty good shape. He needs a good week of practice and to get back up getting those reps. He missed reps before Arkansas, and that probably could have been a little rusty. So he should play. Everybody else is pretty healthy. I mean, Keandre Lambert-Smith is definitely the best player on Auburn's offense, the transfer from Penn State, who has already got 5 touchdowns and is on pace for 1,000 yards. He had a $150 and 2 touchdowns against Arkansas. So he's their playmaker right now. They've got some athletes at receiver. They've got some different guys that they can get the ball to. They're just everything's so inconsistent that you haven't seen a lot of it. But I do think there's some ability there if they can protect and get the ball out there. But Keandre Lambert-Smith is definitely the go-to guy. And if Cam Coleman's healthy, he can be a go-to guy, but he's got to get his confidence back. He's dropped 2 balls this year that have gone off his hands and been interceptions the other way. It's been unfortunate. And then you've got the running game, which has just been interesting because Jarquez Hunter is good and hard to tackle. Damari Alston is a good player, catches the ball out of the backfield. Both those guys are averaging over 7 yards a carry this season, but they fumbled 5 times between them. So it's just – if it's not one thing, it's another. Like they'll run the ball and they'll do well. I mean, last week, Damari Alston's great run is going in for potentially a touchdown. He's at about the 7-8 yard line, still on his feet, fumbles the ball in the end zone. Arkansas recovers. I mean, they were just some critical errors where they'll make a good play and then they'll fumble and stuff like that. So there's ability and talent there. They just gotta quit turning the ball over. Offensive line's pretty good. They're doing a pretty good job. It's just, can they, how many drives can they go without turning the ball over? I told our board, basically Auburn's at a point where their only focus needs to be play one clean quarter of football and then go try to do it again. And then try to go do it again. I mean, that's just kind of the amount of turnovers they've had. You can't even focus on a game. You just have to try to say, go play the first quarter really clean and then just try to go do it again. That's kind of where they're at.
It almost seems like Oklahoma's just looking for one good series.
Yeah.
Offensively.
How about one good play?
Yeah.
But Justin, on the flip side, it's probably a lot like Oklahoma. Defensively, it kind of gets lost, like how good Oklahoma's playing defensively. It feels like Auburn, in their 2 losses, they've played well enough to win the game defensively. Tell us a little bit about the defense and how those guys have performed.
Yeah, I think they've played well enough to win. The Cal game was interesting because they didn't play all that well in the first half. I think Cal was 7 of 10 on 3rd down in the first half. They just made every play. I mean, their quarterback would scramble and make a tough throw, and the receivers would make a tough catch, and Auburn could not get off the field. Second half was different. I mean, they shut Cal down in the second half. Cal had 1 touchdown off of an Auburn turnover. Arkansas game was similar. Like Auburn played well enough to win, but again, the 3rd and longs killed them. They gave up 9 third down conversions in that game. They gave up 5 conversions of 3rd and 10 or more, including a scramble on 3rd and 19 that ended up being a 58-yard bomb for a touchdown. So their issue against Arkansas was they could not get off the field on 3rd down, but they did a bunch of other good stuff. I mean, they held Jaquindon Jackson, who's the league's leading rusher, to 75 yards on 22 carries. They forced a couple of turnovers. So, yeah, they've played well enough overall to have won those games. They're still a little inconsistent, but their effort was really good. Like, the effort was there. They couldn't get off the field. So that's the question for the Auburn defense in this game is you have very little film on Michael Hawkins. And so Auburn's now faced, this will be the 4th straight athletic mobile quarterback that can get out of the pocket and can make your life a little bit difficult if you don't corral him. And so that's the question is, what has Auburn's defense learned the last 3 weeks to try to clamp down Michael Hawkins and somehow keep him sort of in the pocket and not let him, every time it's 3rd and 7, scramble out, make a run, or find a receiver, because that's killed Auburn in their 2 losses is 3rd down conversions. And so like that's the big thing is how do you deal with Michael Hawkins? What's he going to do, and how do you try to contain him? And if they can get off the field, they've been pretty good so far. They've given up a few busts. They've given up a few busts, but not a high number of them. So they've played good enough to win. Not great, but they've played good enough to win.
Closing out the home schedule, opening up the season with 5 straight home games, is this kind of a moment, or have you gotten a sense in talking to some of the players throughout the week that a rally the troops type moment before they head back out onto the road and the difficult schedule and everything that comes with Georgia next week?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to Eugene Asante on Monday or Tuesday, who is a team captain, starting linebacker. He said they had a players-only meeting Monday, which, it's every time tough times happen,
Sure.
players-only meeting.
Sure. It's going to solve everything.
Yeah, so we're at that point of the season. But, it feels like it's kind of, hey, guys, we either need to fix things or this is going to go south. Like, it's already 2-2. You're not there yet, but you're on a breaking point of, if you don't beat Oklahoma, the rest of the schedule, I mean, you're La Monroe and Vandy, you're looking at 4 if you beat Vandy, but it is a real uphill battle to even get to 6 if you lose Oklahoma. So I do think the players are feeling the pressure. And Eugene Asante basically said the message in the players' only meeting was, we have to do more. Like, he basically told his teammates, if you think you're doing enough, you're not. We have to prepare more. We have to treat it like a job. This is not a joke, is what he said. He says a job, not a joke. Like, we have to treat this like, we're all getting money. This is the NIL. Like, we're making money. This is a job, and we need to act like it, and we need to be more prepared. And so we'll see, to try to get their focus back and not making the mental errors. So it feels like the players are feeling like it's kind of a do or die type scenario. I think they feel like they're close. I mean, Asante said internally they watch the film and they see some of the mistakes they're making and they just kind of shake their head. Like, some of the mistakes they're making are just elementary that don't make sense. And so they feel like they're close to being a really good football team. But again, you kind of are who you are. I mean, you can't make those mistakes on both sides of the ball and then keep coming back and saying, well, if we just didn't make this one simple mistake, if it's a trend, it becomes who you are. So they got to figure out how to play a clean game and start to change the narrative on, kind of who they are.
It's just interesting hearing this because it feels like it's the exact same here in terms of you look at the schedule, and if they can't win, Oklahoma side, they've got Alabama still on the schedule, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, all those things. I want to ask you, Justin, is the pressure on for Hugh Freeze? I saw our good friend Andy Staples for On3 wrote a big story today talking about Brent Venables and Hugh Freeze and kind of how pivotal this game could be in terms of the rest of the season for both Brent and Hugh. Do you feel like this is one of those moments where I'm not saying this is going to determine Hugh Freeze's future at Auburn, but it feels like it could go one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, he's only however many games in, 17 games or something. And and you're already at that kind of like, hey, every game kind of matters. I mean, I don't think there's any worry with Freeze. Like there's a lot of alignment here with him and the president and the AD and the boosters. And so I think they're okay for now. It's not about one game. It's sort of the totality. Now, if they lose to Oklahoma and then they lose to Georgia and then they lose to Missouri and then they lose to Kentucky, like, it's the culmination of, if you look up and they go 5-7, then you're going, then you I think there'll be pressure even in just year 2. Like, I don't think he's gonna be fired, but 5-7 look, I told you that if they lose this game, La Monroe, Vanderbilt, it's not out of the question they go 4-8. It's not out of the question they go 7-5 because Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky, A&M, none of those teams are world beaters right now, but neither is Auburn. So I don't know that the pressure's on him yet. I think he's got some added pressure, though, because it's an offensive issue. Like, that hurts him. It's not just that they're not playing well. He is supposed to be the offensive guy, and they're so bad on offense. That doesn't help the situation with him. So, no, I don't think there's a lot of pressure at the moment. I mean, they're recruiting at an unbelievable level. I mean, they've got a chance at a legitimate chance at a top 5 class if, they can kind of hang on. So I don't think the pressure's dialed up in terms of his job security. That's something we'll see at the end of the year. If they go 5-7, then there will be some unhappy boosters, and nobody's ready to fire him, but it'll go to another level.
Outside of the turnover issue, if we look up at 7 o'clock on Saturday night and Auburn has won this game, what has gone right for them? Is it as simple as just clean it up? The turnovers are just so detrimental to the game.
It's a pretty big one. I mean, turnovers and yard. You want to look at yards per rush for Auburn because they want to run the ball and then they want to go off of that RPO wise. So you want to look at yards per rush, and if Auburn's yards per rush is pretty good, then obviously they're running the ball, but it also means they're probably going to have some opportunities to throw off the RPO stuff. But yeah, I mean, they had 430 yards against Arkansas, and they gave the ball away 5 times. They just gave 5 drives away. They held the ball for 23, 24 minutes. They only ran, I think they barely got to 60 plays in that game. Might have been a little bit less, and they had 430 yards. I mean, if they would stop turning the ball over and could get themselves to 70 plays in a game, I don't think they've gone past maybe 60, 61 all year. Partly because 2 of the teams they played are terrible and they scored so quickly. Sure. And then the other 2, they turned the ball over 10 times. So yeah, it's just can they play clean football and save those drives and actually get themselves the right number of plays to try to get the running game going. Every time they've sort of got the running game going, then they call a pass and it's a pick or it's a sack. And so there's just no consistency or rhythm at all. So yeah, you're looking at turnovers. Do they play clean? Do they give themselves a chance to run 70 plays and yards per rush? Are they running the ball fairly well? Because if they're not, then it's tough to run that RPO, and it's tough you don't want the pressure to be all on the quarterbacks the way things are going. You better be able to run the ball. And so yeah, I'm kind of looking at turnovers and yards per rush if you're looking at Auburn's offense.
Lastly, Justin, I know a lot of OU fans are making the trip down to Auburn. Hopefully the weather isn't too bad. But what are some stops? What are some places that you would suggest OU fans check out when they make the trip?
Man, I would just try to come downtown and walk around a little bit. There's some really good places to eat. I don't know when people are going to get in town, but there's some good places to eat if you can get in. There's a place called Hamilton's downtown. There's a place called The Depot that's phenomenal. There's a place called Acre. There's a place called The Hound. All those are downtown. There's a great place to go have drinks. It's actually a sponsor of one of our shows, disclaimer, called Session, that is in the heart of downtown. It's a nice cocktail lounge where there's not going to be people standing around like you're sitting down somewhere. So I'd go have a drink there, and then just go check out Auburn, Toomer's Corner, Toomer's Drugstore, right there in the heart of downtown. Has some really good lemonade, and that's where they roll the trees right there. But yeah, I would just go downtown and walk around. It's a really cool place to sort of take in on a game day. But definitely, if you can get in one of those places to eat, that would be phenomenal as well. But yeah, it's a great game day campus. I mean, it's all built around football. So go park, figure it out, get downtown, and just sort of walk around. It's just a cool college town and college feel, and you can interact with people and all that good stuff.
I don't know if either of these teams are very good. I don't think that either of them are, but I guess they're going to play on Saturday at 2:30. Justin Hokansen with Auburn Live. We appreciate it, man. Looking forward to the trip down to Auburn. First SEC road game experience for Oklahoma. Appreciate it.
You got it. You guys have a safe trip.
Appreciate it. Thank you. It's crazy. These two teams offensively, they mirror each other. Obviously, Oklahoma, it doesn't sound like has had the problems with the turnovers as much, right? Obviously, coming out of the first half, they had those problems, but who the hell knows? I think there's a reason the total is where it's at right now, like 46.5, 47.
Yeah, and if you're in Oklahoma, you can't count on getting those turnovers. Obviously, you want to create some of those, but Auburn's obviously their focus is going to be holding on to the football. So you have to hope defensively for Oklahoma that you not only get turnovers, that would be great, but just get stops, right? Sure. Like you can't worry about okay, well, we have to force 4 or 5 turnovers. That'd be awesome if Oklahoma were able to do that. Maybe they can, right? You've seen Oklahoma's been one of the best in the country at creating turnovers. Auburn's been one of the worst in the country in terms of turning the ball over. So it can happen, but as a defense, I think you still have to focus on let's just get stops, play within your fundamentals, and don't worry about it. Let those happen naturally.
Peyton Thorne and Hank Brown, those are your two Auburn quarterbacks. Probably going to see both of them at some point on Saturday, and possibly you could take Oklahoma defense in the over, right? In terms of turnovers, if you sign up for Prize Picks. Prize Picks, one of the favorites here during the game day preview. All you got to do is play $5, get $50 instantly. Use the code as well. Sooner Scoop, all you got to do is download Prize Picks or go to the website, prizepicks.com, to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. George, I know this is something that you have had great success with early in the season. How is that going?
Great. I actually
It continues to go.
I gave out a winner last week.
Very good.
I had the under on Jackson Arnold passing yards, which hit pretty
Soothsayer.
easily. And then I took the over on Quinshon Judkins rushing yards. Both hit. But this week I'm taking Eddie over Dylan Gabriel, 21.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to be able to run against UCLA this weekend. That's not a good football team.
Sure.
And then I have the under on Alan Bowman passing yards, 268.5 passing yards against Kansas State.
Kansas State, big game in the Big 12 country this week. Let's go Thursday night. Brandon Aubrey, over 1.5 field goals in the Meadowlands against the New York Football Giants. And then let's go Caleb Williams, over 0.5 touchdowns. He just needs to throw a touchdown pass on Sunday.
He's been struggling
against
but
the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, they are not a good offense right now.
But I think he'll figure it out eventually.
Just go to download the app or goes to Prize Picks website, prizepicks.com, and use the code SoonerScoop. $5, you get $50 instantly. Pretty good deal, and it keeps you kind of in the loop on the games if you're not losing a bunch of parlays, you degenerates. All right, let's get back into the OU Auburn game. Obviously, the defense, and that's something that we didn't really obviously, the offense was the big story coming out of Tennessee, and what the hell happened there.
Yep.
Fantastic performance against Tennessee.
One of the best that I think we've seen in Norman in a long time. When you talk about the opponent that they were going up against, the stage and what it meant and what they needed to do to keep Oklahoma in that football game as long as they did, super impressive. Now it's about, can you do that every single week? Because the way this offense is going, even if they make some improvements, this defense is going to have to carry this team on its back for most of the season, if not the entire season. So you go into facing an Auburn team that, like we said, they turn the ball over, but they've been moving it. You heard it from Justin. They rank highly in a lot of different categories. So they have to be able to continue to do that. I think stopping the run is a huge thing. Make these quarterbacks beat you this week, right? Like if I'm Oklahoma, I'm selling out to stop Auburn on the ground and saying, okay, Peyton Thorne or Hank Brown, whoever it is back there, beat us through the air, right? I think that Oklahoma can live doing that. It's going to be interesting to see, like we said at the top of the show, is Deshaun McCullough going to be out there? Is he going to play some cheetah? Samuel Omosigo, I think, is obviously the guy that's probably going to start at that cheetah position. But could we even see a young guy, Reggie Powers? I know that they've moved over to the cheetah position.
We talked about that a little bit before the beginning of the season.
They moved Jacoby Johnson over to receiver, and so now you don't have as much cornerback depth. But I wonder, do you see an Eli Bowen and you move Woody Washington over to play some cheetah? Things like that. I think you're going to see them mix up some of those rotations, but you still love this Oklahoma defense. They've got so many guys. Lewis Carter's out there making plays. Kobe McKenzie, who we heard from, played a lot against Tennessee.
Robert Spears-Jennings might have had the game of his career at Oklahoma with the 13 tackles, and somehow, some way, it feels like that was overlooked in the post.
Well, because the offense was so bad. Sure. But I think Robert's maybe been their best defensive player all season. So they've got so many guys. I'm interested to see every single week who's it going to be that's going to step up. The defensive line, I think, has been fantastic on all fronts. So, and I'm like I said earlier, I'm really interested. Do they come out in a 3-man front? Do they come out in a 4-man front? Like, what does it look like this week?
A lot more fun to talk about OU's defense than it is the offense. One of the not so fun things that we had to talk about this week was obviously losing Kendall Dolby for what is probably going to be the rest of the season. I don't even know, probably going to be out for the rest of the season. Had surgery on Wednesday. Big spot for Samuel Omosigo in that cheetah group that you felt like was playing extremely well.
Huge spot for Sammy, and he's a guy that, man, you love his personality, his attitude, talking to him. He's awesome.
You can tell why he somewhat of a TikTok star in the interview
I think
process.
he's not only a locker room favorite, he's a fan favorite, definitely a very personable guy. super smart kid. Like, to be able to play that position, you have to be a really smart football player. You have to have great football instincts, and I think we've seen that from Sammy. He's going to make some mistakes. He's a young guy. He made some mistakes against Tulane when he had to come
lost in coverage a couple times.
Yeah, so that's going to happen, but super athletic player. I mean, this is a guy that could play multiple spots for this defense, so I think they feel really good about him, whether it's rushing or dropping back in coverage. I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on. I'm interested to see who else they rotate there, because they do like to rotate that cheetah position. I mean, we saw Sammy basically splitting snaps with Kendall Dolby, and Dolby was super aggressive, a guy that was not hesitant. That's what you need from Omosigho and whoever else plays that spot. You cannot be hesitant, whether you're coming off the edge or you're dropping back in coverage. You have to know your assignment, and you have to do it 100%. So I'm interested. I think Sammy's going to be a great player. This is a big spot for him, though. And so I'm excited to see what he looks like in his first career start for Oklahoma.
It'll be interesting to see how Hugh Freeze tries to attack the Oklahoma cheetah position with what Omosigho's put on tape, right? Here are a number of the defenders for the Oklahoma side of the football, as well as a lot of talk with Samuel Omosigho and kind of the big spot that he now has.
I say everybody can take something positive out of it. It's little things in that game that the offense didn't necessarily get the way that they wanted, but at the same time, at the end there were some good things that happened. And even in between, necessarily, Tennessee, they did a good job. They had a really well game plan, and so did we. Just didn't capitalize in certain moments. But defensively, we did a good job, but we still got areas to clean up in as well. We gave up some big plays. You don't win when you give up big plays. Simple.
I feel like we played good. I feel like I said this in my last interview. I feel like the times where we give big stuff up on defense is we're literally giving it to them. So we gift wrap it with a bow and handed it to them. If we eliminate the big plays and we tackle better, myself included, we'll be even better than we can be. So yes, we still have room to improve. We played good, but there's still more to go.
Obviously, never want to see an injury, but you'd probably be expected to get more snaps. Just comfort-wise, you feel as comfortable as you've been in this defense, just with the experience that you've had here through the first couple?
During practice, I get plenty of snaps. I get as many snaps as possible to make sure that I hate that this thing happened because it's my dog Dolby, but for this situation to happen, that I'd be able to play. I play more snaps in the game. I get as many snaps in practice to make sure that I'm comfortable in the defense and know what I'm doing.
Yes, losing Kendall Dolby really hurts. One, because he's a great player, great athlete. Two, because us in the locker room, we know what he brings to the team. And he's just a guy that you want to be around. And I mean, I've seen it out there before. I'd take 100 Kendall Dolbys on my team. But losing him hurts. But the good thing is, though, we have depth now. So we have guys who can step up, like you said, show off the talent. We have young guys who, will get prepared this week and be ready to go, too.
Sammy's a dude. That's my little brother. I took him and Lewis under my wing, since they've been here, and they've improved every week, That sucks for Kendall. I love that dude to death. But Sammy's always been there, Sammy's a guy who can play ball. He's played a lot, and he's ready. The moment isn't too big for Sammy at all.
What has it been?
After you get that first turnover, it just starts rolling. We need something to get it started. And after we get that first one, after RJ get that strip sack, it was like, all right, we're here, we're in the game, loose, comfortable, confident, ready to ball.
Incredibly personal, Samuel Omosigho.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see how they match up. And obviously, if, like you said, can this thing do it week to week? And if you can, then the offense just needs to meet you almost not even halfway. The defense will meet them 75% of the way.
Yep. Just survive, man. Just survive at this point. Just get through it. Keep leaning on your defense. Let them play loose. I feel like they've been playing really loose. They clearly, I think, understand their assignments so well. That's what's been really fun to watch with the defense. They are so fundamentally sound. Other than a couple busts, it's like, it's like the execution on the defensive side of the ball is phenomenal.
In comparison to whatever that is offensively. Yep. It's night and day. Obviously, Oklahoma looking for a little bit of a spark offensively. Michael Hawkins is going to make his first career start for Oklahoma on Saturday at Auburn. We talked to a couple of the players and just kind of getting their feel for Michael Hawkins. Obviously, they've seen him a lot more than anybody else, just in terms of, the spring and some of the stuff that we had heard through the spring, some of the stuff that you'd heard through the preseason. You like the way that he stepped into what was a very uncomfortable spot on Saturday. A little bit different, getting the first start.
he has so much poise. I think that's the one word that I keep using with Michael Hawkins is that you can tell he just looks comfortable. And I think some of that is he knows he has that dynamic ability to escape the pocket and make something, out of nothing. But I think beyond that, he's very calm. And I thought after the game, the way he talked to the media, it reminded me a little bit of Kyler Murray in the way that he's like just kind of quiet and very focused, very confident in himself, which is interesting because I actually spoke to Kyler Murray's dad this week.
I didn't want to run much of the story, but I know that he really, really likes Michael Hawkins.
Yeah, Kevin Murray, he's not only Kyler Murray's dad, but he's a personal quarterback trainer in the Dallas area and has worked with Michael for the last 5 years now, very close with Michael's dad, and he loves Michael Hawkins. He thinks that he can be a superstar at Oklahoma. Now, for Michael to succeed at Oklahoma, I think we all know the pieces around him also have to step up.
Sure.
Oklahoma needs to get healthy at some positions or needs some of these young guys to finally kind of find their groove. A Jaquez Petaway, I think, would be huge this week. But I think there's a lot of belief that Michael can give this group a spark. I think his ability to run the football, escape the pocket, make some things happen down the field could be huge for Oklahoma. And I think that, Eddie, at some point, they might have to play Jackson Arnold again. So I'm interested to see. I don't know if that's this weekend or later down the line. It feels like there's going to be a moment where Jackson's going to have to come back into the game in a big
Always
spot.
seems like it happens like that.
Exactly. And so he has to be ready, and I'm really curious to see how he responds whenever that moment comes.
Here is a little bit more from some of his teammates talking about Michael Hawkins, as well as a little bit more with Jaquez Petaway, who we saw at the end of the game last week, had 2 big, long receptions, and maybe he has a little bit of chemistry with Michael Hawkins.
Yeah, I mean, throughout camp, everyone works with everyone, so me and Mike have a pretty good relationship and work together a pretty good amount, and so pretty comfortable.
His maturity, he does not play like a freshman, and like you said, since fall camp, really since spring ball, since he got here, we've all seen it. The things this guy can do, how he can move the pocket, use his legs and improvise is the situation we're in now. And so having Mike Hawkins being able to be back there, it's good.
And Mike, we've been close ever since he got here back in December. And we just it's been an ongoing relationship, and we just got really close together. And that connection we had is like an everyday at practice thing. We just talk about just staying on the same page.
Does it help that you guys were with the second team throughout the spring and into fall camp and just have had a lot of reps together?
Most definitely, yeah. Because being on the field with him, it just felt like another day at practice. And I know he's gonna place the ball where it needs to be at, and I just need to get my head around, just catch the ball, get the job.
How big is that second half for you, just to build some confidence for yourself going into this next week?
Very, man, I ain't gonna lie. I got a lot of confidence from that, man. Just going out there and just balling out, just doing my thing, just being me, and just catching the ball and just making a play. That's all it comes down to.
Knowing all the injuries that you guys have had in that wide receiver room, has that maybe kind of compelled you a little bit more to know that your opportunity's there and to really make the most of it?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we have guys going down, so that just means more people need to step up. And whatever role I get, whether it's on special teams, anywhere on offense, I'm just going to step into the plate. And whatever I got to do, I got to do it. So that's what it is.
Might be the guy that you circle if you're looking for a playmaker. Even if Deion Burks can't go, you're probably talking about Jaquez Petaway as maybe your most experienced wide receiver going into the game.
Talk about a big moment for him. Last year we didn't see a lot of him. Sure. And a lot of times we were like, where's Jaquez Petaway?
There were some times even during the spring that it was like, is Petaway going to be the odd man out of this wide receiver group? Is he going to enter the transfer portal?
Yeah, and now here he is as maybe their number one option going into the first road game in the SEC. So huge moment for him. I think we all know he has a lot of ability. Can he make those big plays? Can him and Michael Hawkins find some sort of connection? You'd love to see him and Deion Burks on the field at the same time. We haven't seen that yet. I think if Burks is able to give it a go on Saturday, we will see that some, because those are probably the 2 best wide receivers right now. I still think you're going to see a lot of Brennan Thompson. He's played a lot this year, so I think he's going to be on the field. Zion Reagans, you're still going to see some. J.J. Hester, they're just really Zion Kearney, they're just really limited right now.
Sure.
And I still think, I know it's crazy to say, I think we might see some Jacoby Johnson come Saturday. I don't think it'll be a lot. It might just be a few snaps, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's out there. He's
perhaps
already,
Ivan Carry-On. Haven't seen him since Temple.
Yeah,
I just don't know. I mean, you need some size at some point.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see, man. I think they'll throw Jacoby out there in some different packages, especially as a blocker. So
sure.
It's going to be interesting. That wide receiver room, man, it's decimated.
I mean, it's almost to the point where it's like, oh, he can't go either. All right, well, it's kind of par for the course for what they've had for the injury situation on the offensive side of the football. Going to be an interesting Saturday. We'll be down in Auburn. God willing, maybe have to drive if the weather is not cooperating by Friday morning in the Atlanta area. It's a big storm.
Yeah, not good. I know there's probably a lot of OU fans watching this that maybe are making the trip, probably flying on the same flight we are, or maybe later in the day on Friday.
Kind of fingers crossed type of deal to get out of here in a timely manner.
Hopefully they can
morning.
land a plane in a hurricane.
I don't think that they can. Sully could, but I don't think that anybody else could. That'd be sweet if we walked in and he was doing it.
It'd be awesome.
It'd be better
Tom
than
Hanks?
some others, you know what I mean? All right, that's going to do it for George Stoyle. I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll be right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel for the instant reaction from Jordan Hare coming up on Saturday evening. Talk to you then.